The sun is shining in the sky, hardly a cloud in sight, and we are going to have a fantastic race here today.
Drivers, start your engine!
Cause we want retribution. Yeah, we want retribution.
But coming to the green, you're getting cleaned out real well. Pace car's off, kick some ass.
There's the green flag and we're underway.
Green, 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 green. Outside, still there at your door. Good job, man. Nice and solid. Take care of yourself.
Three wide.
Ear Hawkins into the wall.
Oh, big double!
Crash in the back. Oh, there's a crash in the back.
Double.
Great job, doing awesome, buddy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here to the Sonoma Raceway, where tonight it is race number 12 of the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series, the Toyota Savemart 350, our second road course race of the season, first since COTA back in March, where we saw Valkyrie Atikian go on to take the checkered flag in that race, and she's starting third here in this event, so definitely got a lot of that momentum from the road courses cut out for her. She's definitely poised and ready to go from that third spot. Just in case if you missed last week, we were at the Michigan International Speedway, which saw mostly some good and clean racing all the way around and a few cautions here and there, one of which left the door wide open for Roberto Crown Jr. out of his own team of Powerhouse Crown Racing to have a perfectly timed pass to take 2 laps to go, beating out Jerry Rose by a half a car length. It's his first win of the season, and he himself has been very quietly consistent all year this year, but that win at Michigan last week puts him right in the catbird seat to be in this championship fight. After today, we'll have 9 races left until we crown a champion in November at the Homestead Miami Speedway, which, if I remember correctly, that championship race, that's on repeat, by the way, so I do apologize for that. But that race at Homestead Miami, the championship race, should be on the 8th of November. And then after that, points will no longer be awarded once we go to make up the next 2 races that were supposed to be ran back in May, the Coca-Cola 600 on Veterans Day on Tuesday, November the 11th, and then Pocono on that same week on a Saturday, November 15th. So no points will be awarded on those 2 races, and the championship race will still be held on its initial date at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Speaking of, let's go ahead and review your points standings coming into this race. Terry Walker holds on to a pretty good margin. Holds on to the points lead by a good margin over Kyle Craven, who has 267 points to his name. And there's last week's winner, Roberto Crown Jr., sitting third on the standings with 263 points to his name. Zachary Fitzwater, who had been up on the top of the standings for a good while, falls to 6th as we look at the next page here on our points from 11th on down to 20th. Nia Steidel, after her wreck at Michigan, falls all the way down to 15th on the standings. Abby Walker, 12th, just outside of the top 10. As we scroll to the next page, there's our pole sitter Noah Clifton's 23rd in points as of right now. Wyatt Walker, 22nd in the standings after the poor result at Michigan just last week. CG Hall, 27th with 158 to his name. Walker Family Motorsports looking to turn things around here for this week. And in the bottom of the points bracket, Alex Bonsignor, who actually has himself a pretty good starting spot for this race, 34th in the standings, 127 points to his name. A good run here tonight. A good run tonight could definitely change that. I'm having a lot of hiccups there, here and there, but it is definitely going to be a very interesting race. Points wise, to see if there's going to be other drivers that will be able to capitalize on their starting positions and possibly get some good finishing results. Aaron Abel was another driver that we saw towards the bottom of the points bracket. And you could see him just on the left-hand side of your screen. He currently starts in the 7th position here in this event. Speaking of, let's go ahead and review your starting lineup. For the Toyota Savemart 350, Noah Clifton starts on pole. Russell Blaze lines up alongside. Both have a very good chance of winning this race if they can get the strategies nailed down on pit road. There's Alex Bonsignor, who we touched on a little bit ago, starting in 10th. And 3rd place in points, Roberto Crown Jr. starting in the 9th position. There's our points leader, Terry Walker, starting 13th, just behind Wyatt Walker, who starts in the 11th position. Ryan Godillo, Michael DeFeo both brought pretty fast hot rods. Remember earlier today, DeFeo found himself in the dirt and still managed to get his way into today's race. Sebastian Vaughn dead last in points, starting in the 16th position. There's Quentin Moore starting 22nd. Nia Steidel 28th. She's going to need herself a good run here in order to get herself back inside of the top 10 of the points standings. Same can be said for Abby Walker starting 27th. Scrolling on over to the next page here, we've got Zachary Fitzwater 34th as of right now. There's Janiyah Hill starting in the 39th position. This is the first race that she's been in without Bobby McGuire. So the last time that Janiyah raced was, I believe, at North Wilkesboro, where she and Bobby were both in the same race. But now Janiyah has a go at it all on her own. And rounding up the field, that would be Braden Perez in the 88. And Wayne Lopez, who wasn't even on the track and didn't even take time. That is the reason why Wayne Lopez starts in the 42nd position. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been well worth the wait, if I may say. You know, this is our first road course race since COTA back in March. And after tonight, we will have ourselves a good break until the end of July, where we'll get back at it at the Nashville Super Speedway. So it's going to be a fun one. And we'll see who's going to have the best strategy here at the Sonoma Raceway. 50 laps around. It's going to be fun. Drivers are strapped into their cars. Pre-race ceremonies are just now starting to wrap up. But in order to get these 42 cars rolling on the track, let's get the command to fire the engines. Let's go trackside.
Driver, start your engines.
There it is. Engines are fired. Pace car is rolling off. And so are these 42 competitors. We're going to get ourselves a full pace lap. And all 42 cars are rolling pretty successfully. So as I mentioned, 50 laps to distance here at the Sonoma Raceway. It is the WRLA's first trip to wine country. We would have been here back in 2017, 2020, or even in 2023 had well, you know, good old me not had any sort of burnout from recording races, but live streaming them has definitely been a saving grace at that. Doing all these live, and definitely thank you guys a lot for tuning into some of these live coverages, whether if you're watching this live on Twitch or if you're watching the full race premieres on YouTube. You guys are the ones that definitely make this happen. So we thank you so much for tuning in nonetheless. And I would definitely say, focusing in here on this race, as they're halfway around here at the Sonoma Raceway, if you are definitely in the spots of Noah Clifton or Russell Blaze, you ultimately would have the very best chance of winning this race, because whoever has the preferred line going into the first set of corners is usually the guy that's going to come out as the race winner. That being Russell Blaze, because the uphill turn number 2 is a right-hand turn. And that would heavily benefit Russell Blaze, and he would come out with the race lead, and nobody would be able to touch him. But pit stops would loom over the horizon in this 50-lapper, so that could definitely throw a monkey wrench into who wins this race. For all we know, it could hand the race over to somebody maybe like Sebastian Vaughn. Remember, I touched on it when we were going over the points and even the starting grid, he's dead last in the points with 106 to his name. So a win here today could definitely change the trajectory of his season. But as the field works their way straight through the S's and coming down into turn number 10, heading into the very sharp turn number 11, which could be a huge trouble spot for these drivers, especially going into turn number 1 is when, you know, we've got the pit exit line blending in with the racing line. That's going to be a huge challenge on top of that as well. Pace car is going to make the left-hand turn into the pits, and the field at pacing speed is going to circle around turn number 11. Don't mind what these drivers do. That's just what the AI does. Right around turn 11, the field will be put into the hands of Russell Blaze and Noah Clifton to lead the field down and get the green flag to kick off the Toyota Savemart 350. Green flag, and we're racing in Sonoma. And already Blaze way off the course, and he's around into the tire barriers. Trouble for our outside pole sitter, Russell Blaze. He seems to be the only one that has had the most amount of trouble. Cautions are turned off, so these drivers, once they have incidents, it'll be very tough to recover. Abby Walker around off the racetrack, just heading into the 5th corner. We stay green nonetheless. Look at this, 3 wide over here with Skylar Taylor, Steidel, and Emily Anderson, but they shuffle it back down to double file. But my goodness gracious, what a chaotic start to this one. And Noah Clifton is going to get away with the race lead to start things off. Stephen Colon, he's going to take over the 2nd position. Then in 3rd will be Valkyrie Atikian, right where she started off this race. As they come around to complete lap number 1, Clifton will lead it, and we'll get that 1 bonus point for leading the lap. So Kyle Craven will be 4th. Aaron Abel comes out in 5th, with Monaco in 6th, and 7th is Caleb Rose. Alex Bonsignor in the 8th position. Ryan Gondillo in 9th. And there's Wyatt Walker rounding out the top 10 in the Fastenal machine, being trailed by his dad and his points leader, Terry Walker, who's knocking on the door of the top 10. Ryan Little went a little bit off the course, and there's our 3rd place in points for Berto Crown Jr. going a little wide there on corner exit, but not going to have the preferred line here as he's going to start to slide back in this number 21. Remember, he won at Michigan last week in a very thrilling, basically last green flag lap pass, coming to 2 laps to go, and beat out this man, Jerry Rose. Rose currently sits in the 19th position. So far running in the mid-pack, and the unfortunate thing for Jerry Rose is that last week he could have been en route for his best career finish of 2nd place had he not run out of fuel coming to the white flag under caution. So that was very unfortunate, and Rose looking to turn it all around as he's currently sitting again in the 19th position very early in the going. Clifton is checked out at least by 1 second over Stephen Colon, who trails in that runner-up spot. And this is kind of the routine of the early stages of a road course race. Usually what will happen is that everybody will get into a single file green flag rhythm. Well, basically rhythm because there are no cautions on a road course. But nonetheless, they all get themselves sorted out in single file and just try to ride this race out until they get to the first round of green flag stops, to which the pit crews are going to be the guys that are going to determine who wins and loses this race for the most part. And also on top of that, it's also just a race of attrition and also endurance as well, and who's going to have the fuel to go to distance and who's going to not make a mistake and who hopefully isn't going to make a mistake at any parts of the racetrack, because it is pretty easy to do here at a racetrack like Sonoma with all the hills and the curves and elevation change and vice versa. So that's definitely going to be something to watch out for as this race goes on. See if we can find our outside pole sitter of Russell Blaze. There he is. He's currently past a couple of cars, and he's tucked in currently in that 38th position, going to work on Braden Perez, who started 41st in this race. And right behind him, that is Abby Walker, who started 12th in this event. She's currently right behind Blaze in 39th. Blaze goes for a dive here on Braden Perez and this right-hander, but not going to have the advantage going into this left-hander, but gonna have to tuck in here through the S's and try it again here in this turn number 11 coming up. Nathan Stapleton in the 97 well off pace. In this number 97, currently sitting in the 42nd position, but the blessing in disguise is that it's very early in the race, and as I've alluded to, the pit crew could be the deciding factor of if Stapleton is gonna have a shot at winning the race, or either that or just getting himself a really good finish, because he comes into this event 30th in the points standings. So this season definitely has not fared too well for Nathan Stapleton. And NS Racing, for the most part, the only other driver that has been pretty consistent all year has been Zachary Fitzwater. Andrew Miller starting to kind of turn his luck around for the most part, but qualifying really didn't do him too well. Currently sitting in the 36th position as of right now on lap number 5. You can definitely see the field has worked themselves single file as they work their way into turn 11. There's Rogel Dorn in the 86 machine. Dorn could have himself a very good run here today. He comes in, well, basically comes into this race. I can't 100% remember where he was in points, but definitely has to be somewhere top 25, top 30-ish in the points standings. But basically for Rogel Dorn in this race, currently sits in the 16th position early in the going. So definitely a very good run here for this number 86. We haven't really talked too much about Rogel Dorn all season. The only other two drivers that obviously we would talk about from the Durrani Racing camp would be Russell Blaze and Quentin Moore. Currently, Dorn is running better than both of them combined. Remember, Blaze ended up getting turned around at the beginning of the event, which sent him from second all the way back to just outside of the top 30. Currently now, still sitting in the 38th position, hasn't really been able to do much when it comes to getting around Braden Perez and his teammate, Quentin Moore, currently sitting in the 18th position. So not too far behind here for this number 04. We focus up at the front of the field. It's just to check in. The gap between Stephen Colon and Noah Clifton has shrunk to about 9/10 of a second. As of right now, Colon trying to search for his second win of the season and of his career. He won at Rockingham back in February, the week after the Daytona 500, in a caution-free race at the Rockingham Speedway. Surprisingly caution-free. So hopefully Colon can nab his second career win. Noah Clifton trying to make history and tie Emmanuel Hartnett as the all-time winningest driver in WRLA. Just in case, for those that may not remember or may not know, Clifton is a two-time winner here in WRLA. He won at Rockingham in 2020 when he drove for Chloe Bumgarner and Swiss Auto Sport. And just 2 years ago when he signed on to NS Racing, he went to victory lane on the dirt at Bristol. So still trying to search for his third career win, his first on the season. And this season for Noah Clifton has just been a roller coaster. He has some races where he'll shine, whether it be qualifying or whether it be during race trim. Others, not so much. So he can have an up and down kind of season. It's definitely been a pretty obvious roller coaster for Noah Clifton. So Clifton definitely looking to turn things around here starting this weekend at Sonoma. And so far leading the way here in the opening stages of the Toyota Savemart 350. Another driver looking for her second career win in the WRLA. That would be Valkyria Tikin in this number 23. Won in Coda back in March. Currently sitting in the third position. Kyle Craven still searching for his first Pepsi Cup Series win. He's been one of those other drivers in All-American Motorsports, or now rebranded into American Motorsports, that has been pretty consistent all season. He's kind of been in a similar spot as Russell Blaze, where he has the speed and he has the consistency, but hasn't really been able to put all the puzzle pieces together in order for a win to fall into the hands of Kyle Craven. So right now, he's in a pretty good spot to start things off. 8 laps in, working lap 9 right now, to where he could come out of here with a top 5. But obviously, the one thing that he is hoping for is a win. So Craven right now starting things out, doing a very nice job in this 4th position. Here's Aaron Abel, whom I mentioned was towards the bottom of the points bracket. It's very, very low in points. Right now, currently running in the 5th position, another driver who is still searching for his first Pepsi Cup Series win. Same can be said for Eric Monaco, who's sitting in the 6th spot, top 10 in point standings, along with his boss and teammate, Roberto Crown Jr. Then there's Caleb Rose, who hasn't really had the best of seasons, but recently, points-wise, has been able to turn it around. And definitely throughout the month of May, he's 100% capitalized on all those bonus points that he was able to harness up together throughout the month of May. Remember, it was 5 bonus points for leading a lap, 10 for leading the most laps, and 20 for winning, as Stapleton is going to be making his way back out on the racetrack and right into the racing line in front of DeFeo. The good news was neither Stapleton or DeFeo went off the course, but the bad news is that there is now a pretty big buckle. I wouldn't say big, but it's a decent-sized buckle, a noticeable one at that, on the nose of Michael DeFeo's car. Right now, he currently runs in the 12th position. We'll see if that damage is going to bring the number 60 to pit road. So a little bit of trouble for Michael DeFeo in this number 60 machine. So Stapleton's day kind of went from bad to worse, especially when he had to make that pit stop. He now finds himself as the first car 1 lap down, which is rather unfortunate given the fact that he didn't have himself the best qualifying position. So definitely seeing him now 42nd, a lap down, it definitely adds a lot of insult to injury, and unfortunately encapsulates the type of season that Stapleton has had all year this year so far. Really hope that he's able to turn it around after this weekend when we get back at it at Nashville towards the end of July. At that point, we'll have 9 races left until we crown a champion in the WRLA, and then after that, no points will be rewarded when we go to make up Charlotte and Pocono the following week. The points would 100% be locked up, and that would be that. But getting back at it here, here's Alex Bonsignor in the number 22. He's been a veteran in the Pepsi Cup Series since the day that WRLA was created back in 2017, or really the year that it was created. A-Bonds Racing, that would be Bonsignor's own team. It's definitely been up and down the road when it comes to manufacturer changes. Went from Dodge to Toyotas to Chevrolets, now running Ford Mustangs for his own team. Napa Auto Parts has definitely been a pretty loyal partner to Bonsignor, but this season just has not been too kind to Bonsignor. I don't even know where I was going with that, but Bonsignor, of course, finds himself just outside of the top 30 in the points standings, and he could have had himself a really good run at Michigan, and he was definitely showing signs of that, but unfortunately, the result they wound up getting didn't back up the performance that he was having at MIS last week. Now coming into this week, currently running just outside of the top 5, running in the 8th position. Here's Ryan Gundillo, who's been running a limited schedule, running part-time this year, trying to get into all the races and competing in some. He's made a good handful of races so far this year, but still searching for his first Pepsi Cup Series win. A few years back, he wound up leaving Elijah Gordon Incorporated to form his own team. Of course, EGI definitely being a pretty good support to Gundillo's own team of GG Motorsports. But has definitely been enjoying that part-time run that Ryan Gundillo has been on. So, and then of course, here's Wyatt Walker, rounding out your top 10. Walker's been a part of WRLA since 2020. He ran part-time in that year. That would have been his rookie year, but of course, again, part-time. But then went full-time for his own team in 2023, brought on Gecka and CG Halt to make his team a 3-car operation. Both of those drivers went on to win in Milwaukee and Kansas, respectively. But Wyatt Walker still has yet to win his first Pepsi Cup Series race. Abby Walker has already gone to victory lane for the team this year. CG Halt trying to look for his second win, and Terry Walker still trying to look for his first. Nashville could be the track where he could get his first win, Terry Walker, that is, because if you remember last year, that's where he won his first McDonald's Cup Series race in the NRLOA. So could see some deja vu when we go to Nashville towards the end of July. Check in with the race leaders. 13 laps now complete, and looks like Cologne has closed the gap just a little bit more. It's now 0.7 of a second, but he lost a hundredth there as Noah Clifton opens it up by just a little bit. Not a whole lot, but the first round of green flag pit stops should be coming up here very soon. I would have to say maybe right around lap 20. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. Top 4 end up breaking away from 5th place Aaron Abel, who has got himself a pretty good mirror full of the 31 of Eric Monaco, as well as Caleb Rose and Alex Bonsignor, Gundillo and Stapleton, who is on fresh tires, by the way, so he is off sequence with the rest of the other lead lap cars, so he's doing everything he can to at least get around a few other cars before they come in for their stops. Look at Stapleton just all over the back bumper of this 51 as they head into turn 11 this time around. And Stapleton is really wanting to get by Ryan Gundillo because he wants a shot to get back on the lead lap before everyone else comes to pit road. If he can manage to work his way around the rest of the traffic and catch up to Noah Clifton, which would be his own car, by the way, and get around him, then he would officially get back on the lead lap. Pretty wise move there for Ryan Gundillo. Just let Stapleton go because he understands very well that Stapleton is a lap down and he's on fresher tires, so there's really no sense into trying to defend your racing line against a lap car, because that could definitely mess up your chances, or definitely mess up your run and lose you a couple spots. So Ryan Gundillo definitely did a very wise thing of letting Stapleton go around him on the left-hand side. coming around to complete 15 laps here on the Toyota Savemart 350. The gap has now shrunk just by another 100th between Stephen Colon and Noah Clifton. Clifton still leads the way, but that first round of green flag pit stops, again, should be looming around in the next corner within a good handful of laps. Field cycles around through turn 5, heading through turn number 6 this time. This hard right-hand turn, and look at Stephen Colon just absolutely close in on that corner. But he's going to lose some ground heading through the S's. Clifton going to check out by just a little bit. And that's actually pretty impressive. The gap between 4th and 5th as of right now is a good 3 seconds, and here we go. Clifton is going to peel off, come to pit road. Stephen Colon is going to stay out and assume the lead. Valkyrie Atikian, Aaron Abel, and Eric Monaco, they're all going to join, as well as Michael DeFeo. Try to go to work on the damage on his car, as well as Sebastian Vaughn, and others should be on pit road as well. So the race lead changes hands over to Stephen Colon in this number 25. So as pit stops begin, this is really going to be interesting as to how the field's going to look after this round of green flag stops, because this would be a normal pit stop sequence for each and every single driver. But once we get down to, I would have to say, right around maybe lap 32-ish, because it looks like the pit window opens right around lap 15 to 18, if I'm correct. So if that's the case, the pit strategies as we get closer and closer to the end of the race is going to start looking a little bit more ballsy, if you will. Some drivers may take fuel only, others may take tires just to make sure that they've got enough grip to get them to the finish. So that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on. Colon makes his way in. Same can be said for Kyle Craven, Rose, Bonsignor, Gundillo, Walker, Terry Walker as well. And the rest of the crowd, or at least this crowd of cars coming to pit road. Claire Phillips stays out. And it looks like she might be able to take the lead. Actually, not this time around. Look at the rest of the cars in the background. They're all going to make the trip to pit road, with the exception of Chase McClure. He's going to stay out. All those other cars, like Noah Clifton and Valkyrie Atikian, for instance, they have already made their stops, and they're already back out on track there, so they're going to pick up that track position. So Claire Phillips currently assumes the lead, but is not scored there, as she's currently being scored in 3rd. Oh, a little bit of contact between Colon and Clifton, and there's a pretty good buckle on the hood of Clifton's car. See if there's been any other trouble for anybody else coming out of the pits or anybody on the racing line, and so far that has not been the case. Maybe here, actually maybe not. So all clear here between Reagan Whitlock and Emily Anderson. But up over here, lots of damage to the back end of the 25, as that probably might have enabled a lead change. Probably, I say that very loosely, unless if Colon is able to keep this race lead away from Valkyrie Atikian, but Atikian closing in. Let's see what Valkyrie's going to do here heading into turn 11. Ooh, didn't really go into that corner the way that she was hoping for. She goes in a little too wide. And Stephen Colon might be able to reassess the lead. And indeed, that's the case. Oh, but there's Stapleton. Oh, he's gonna slow down Stephen Colon. And Atikian is right there on the back bumper of this 25. What is Valkyrie going to do here heading down into this next corner? Is she going to make a pass? Not quite yet. Oh, but Cologne's starting to put a little distance between himself and Atikian. But look at Atikian just close in right there. Not too much, though. But now Cologne starts to pull away from the 23 of Valkyrie Atikian. Noah Clifton's going to slip back into third. So a little bit of trouble there. I think that buckle on the hood might have something to do with it. And might, very loosely, because remember, DeFeo wound up getting similar damage. He came back out in the 8th position. Here comes the change for third as Kyle Craven makes the dive to the inside and will take over that 3rd position. So, as the field cycles back around, here's an official look at your top 10 with 19 laps complete, working lap 20. Leading the race, that is Stephen Cologne in the 25. Valkyrie Atikian in the 2nd position. Kyle Craven now sits in 3rd. Noah Clifton, who started on pole for this race, he falls back to 4th. Eric Monaco completes the top 5. Caleb Rose in 6th. Then in 7th is Michael DeFeo. Sebastian Vaughn is in 8th, having himself a great run here today. After that round, after this first round of green flag stops, Aaron Abel sits 9th, and Ryan Gundillo rounds out the top 10 as we get ready to complete lap 20 this time by. It seems like even with a small, even with some rear end damage on his car, Stephen Cologne is able to hold on to this top spot over the 23. For the most part, it's just a lot of cosmetic damage, so it's not really doing any sort of aerodynamic harm to Stephen Cologne's race machine. However, the only other issue that I can think of is, has it possibly damaged the fuel cell, which sits in the very back end of the car, at least that fuel pickup at the very back end. It possibly might have, but only time will tell, because that could potentially be a mechanical issue in the long run. Just remember, guys, I am not a licensed mechanic, so I may be just spewing stuff right out of my mouth without any sort of knowledge. So feel free to correct me if you have any sort of knowledge on that. Noah Clifton, though, is in trouble. He is starting to fall back like a rock as Monaco went to 4th. Caleb Rose took over the 5th position, and here comes Michael DeFeo. He's going to try to get around him for the 6th position. Sebastian Vaughn and also Ryan Gundillo are right here as well, as DeFeo and Vaughn and Gundillo, they're all going to have the preferred line coming out of turn number 11. But Clifton, after sustaining that damage, after rear-ending Stephen Cologne, it possibly might have damaged something within the front end of Clifton's car. But that's interesting because Michael DeFeo, you see him right here, he has similar damage, but seems to not have been slowed down whatsoever. So I wonder if it possibly might have been the severity of the hit that Clifton had or delivered to the rear end of the 60 or to the 25 of Stephen Cologne's car. I mean, possibly, because he just lost another position to Alex Bonsignor. And possibly might lose a few more to Terry Walker, maybe even Ryan Little, Zachary Taylor, even Rogel Doran, possibly Wyatt Walker. But something has gone amiss on the 99 of Noah Clifton, as he's got a mirror full of that Lowe's Toyota Camry of Terry Walker as they head into turn number 11. I don't know why I can't say that. But Clifton gets the advantage going through the corners, but it's Terry with the corner exit speed that's going to allow him to move back into the top 10. We focus up at the front of the field. Stephen Cologne starting to check out from second place. Valkyrie Atikian, almost by 1 second, is the gap between himself and the 23 of Atikian. There's Kyle Craven sitting in third, 2.5 seconds back from the race leader, and about a second and a half, just a little over a second and a half, from Valkyrie Atikian. Craven has been pretty consistent when it comes to sitting inside of the top 5. He started 5th in this race, if I'm not mistaken, and the top 5 is where he has been sitting ever since the drop of the green flag. Eric Monaco sitting in 4th currently. Monaco's been pretty consistent, has been quietly consistent all season long, like his boss and teammate Roberto Crown Jr., who won at Michigan last week. But so far, this number 31 has been pretty cool, calm, and collected. Caleb Rose continuing what seems to be a pretty big turnaround for him and Appalachia Motorsports, because remember, Appalachia Motorsports hasn't really gotten off on the right foot this season, especially when it comes to Caleb Rose. Rose wound up dead last in the points for a while. Haven't really been able to capitalize on any good performances or good finishes, but ever since we came back at Michigan, basically ever since May came around, he's been taking really good advantages of other drivers' mistakes and misfortunes, and as well as some pretty well-needed bonus points to get himself inside of the top 20 in the point standings. And today could be another very good day for him, as he's currently sitting inside of the top 5. Meanwhile, let's check in and see where Bruno Diacomo is, currently sitting in the 18th position. So Diacomo having himself a pretty solid day in the number 95 as he works his way off of turn number 11, with a good side-by-side battle happening in front of him. That was Quentin Moore and Jerry Rose going out of her position, and now here goes Quentin Moore underneath of Noah Clifton. This would be for the 15th position. Clifton is definitely in trouble. Something that I'm telling you, that hit that Clifton delivered to the 25 of Stephen Cologne definitely had something to do with it, because now that number 99 has just not been the same ever since. It could be that Clifton's fighting a tight condition on the car. Maybe it could be that Clifton had used up all of his stuff. I mean, it can't be that, because Clifton just came out of the pits probably a lap or two after, or a lap or two before the contact, one or the other. But nonetheless, Clifton really is in trouble in this number 99, as he's starting to fade back just outside of the top 15, and definitely going to fade outside of the top 20 here as this run continues. But Bruno Diacomo, nonetheless, in this 95 has been faring pretty well, currently sitting inside of the top 20, as he's now going to work his way around the wounded Noah Clifton machine and put this 95 up into the 17th spot. Wyatt Walker, who's been running top 10 for a good portion of the event, currently sitting in the 14th position. Been faring pretty well, I'd say. You know, hasn't been in too much trouble tonight, and right now he's been pretty consistently right around the top 10, top 15 areas, so not too bad of a day here for Wyatt Walker. Stephen Cologne's caught up to Aaron Abel, which has held him up quite a bit, and that has opened the door for Valkyrie Atikian to pull up to this 25 and possibly might make a move here if possible. But however, that corner exit speed is going to be the thing that helps Cologne pull away from Valkyrie Atikian and retain this race lead. But look at how much that gap got erased there. Went from a 1.4 second gap to now a third of a second, as Atikian goes a little wide coming up the hill and right back down. coming through turn 4, getting set to go into turn 5. First and second as of right now, that is a 4-second gap. Well, between second and third, I mean to say, that's a 4-second gap, which is pretty impressive of how the top 2 have managed to check out from the rest of your top 10. Nathan Stapleton lies just ahead in this number 97. And we could see this car, I mean, might have already made his pit stop. Stapleton did, but he still finds himself, well, he's back in the lead lap, which is the good news. But the bad news for Aaron Abel is now he finds himself 42nd, 1 lap down. So Stapleton right now, he's in a pretty good position. And as for Noah Clifton, he falls all the way down to 39th. So possibly might have had to come to pit road and get that damage assessed. Either that, or he might have been caught up in a mess of his own, which unfortunately enabled this Noah Clifton to fade all the way back to the top 40s. You see Braden Perez make his trip down to pit road, which could signal the next round of green flag pit stops. Cologne starting to open it up again between himself and Valkyrie Atikian. It's now 2/3 of a second between first and second place. Then you get back here to third. That is about a 5-second gap, and that is the rest of the top 10 all single file right on top of one another. And here comes Caleb Rose underneath of Eric Monaco on the right-hand side. But Monaco with the preferred line and the advantage is going to be able to retain that 4th spot over Caleb Rose. And we can come back over here to just outside the top 10 in the 11th spot. Here's Ryan Little, currently holding off the challenges from Zachary Taylor. You even got Rogel Dorn sitting in the 13th position. Wyatt Walker, who we touched on a little bit ago, sitting in 14th, and just behind him, that's Quentin Moore in the 04. Still sitting in the 15th position currently as of right now. As the field's going to cycle back around, they're going to complete lap number 29 and start lap 30. The gap has now grown to 0.8 of a second, almost 1 second, between Cologne and Valkyrie Atikian, as they've also put Braden Perez a lap down. Remember, Perez just recently came out of the pits. Stapleton has already gotten by Noah Clifton, who's unfortunately, his good day went from bad and now to worse, as he finds himself in danger of going 1 lap down to Stephen Cologne, the same guy who wound up getting rear-ended by Noah Clifton. So I'd say if Stephen Cologne goes on to win this race, that would rub a lot of salt into the wound of Noah Clifton, because I'd say that wound got pretty much busted open by basically when Clifton rammed right into the back end of the 25 of Stephen Cologne when he came out of the pits after that first round of green flag pit stops and gave Clifton those mechanical issues that he's currently having to deal with. But I'd say since then, I mean, that I pretty much say that's going to rub salt into the wound, into Noah Clifton's wounds. If Cologne wins this race, then trouble for the 67 of Andrew Ramsey. Tons of damage to his number 67 machine, and oh my goodness, Val Mosco's car looks even worse. So both of those cars heavily damaged and smashed up they're going to be done for the day. We're also going to take a look at a replay of all the incidents that wound up happening throughout this race, as we are now 20 laps away from the finish of this Toyota Savemart 350 here in Sonoma. Gap has now grown to 1.18 seconds between Cologne and Valkyrie Atikian. Cologne looking for his second win on the season. And that would come with a little bit of controversy, as I've alluded to several times before. And here comes the 88 of Perez around the outside of his boss. Cologne's like, I'm not going to fight you on that one. I'll let you have it since you've got the fresher tires. And he's going to let his car, Brandon Perez, go on by to get back on the lead lap. So 3 cars currently find themselves 1 lap down now, as Perez is going to be able to cycle back around and get back on the lead lap. But those pit stops should be looming around the corner this time by. Here very, very soon, if I may say. Zachary Taylor on pit road. Looks like it's going to be a 4-tire stop for the Indianapolis Colts Mustang of Zachary Taylor. He's another driver searching for his second Pepsi Cup Series win. He won at Michigan to kick off the 2023 season in a thrilling side-by-side finish. And almost won Michigan just last week if Roberto Crown Jr. ran out of gas on the final lap. First and second, they're going to elect to stay out. Let's see what Kyle Craven and crew does here. And it looks like Ryan Gundillo is going to elect to come on down pit road this time by. Well, who's going to join him? Travis Crampton's going to come on in. Skylar Taylor, Tanner Pardon, and CG Halt, followed by Alexander Rowe. They're going to make the trip into the pits. Andrew Miller will follow as well. Wayne Lopez is going to join him. Braden Perez looking to try to get by both Noah Clifton and Nathan Stapleton, especially Clifton, and then eventually Stapleton, because remember, Perez has got those fresher tires. But Stephen Cologne and the rest, and also Valkyrie Atikian, as well as a few others, they should be coming on down into the pits this time by, as the gap has grown to about 1.5 seconds between himself and Valkyrie Atikian. And here comes Atikian, here comes Cologne. They're going to make the trip on down into the pits. Let's see who else is going to join. I would definitely say Craven is going to join, along with the 31 of Eric Monaco. Caleb Rose, Bonsignor, Terry Walker, they're going to stay out, along with Wyatt Walker and Rogel Dorn. They're going to stay out as well. Bruno Diacomo stays out. Fitzy, and as well as the 5 of Claire Phillips, they're going to stay out. Moore, Little, Rose, you see them. They're on pit road as of right now on lap 34. Let's see how this pit stop goes here. I think this might be the stop that slows the 25 down, because remember, they got to repair that rear end bumper. No, they don't. They elect not to. And Stephen Cologne is going to win the race off of pit road between himself and Atikian. And fortunately, there's been no other traffic that's going to get into the racing line to at least slow down anybody else that was just coming out of the pits, especially if you are Stephen Cologne or Valkyrie Atikian. Looks like one car went off into the dirt. I'm not sure who that was. Might have been Russell Blaze. Now here comes Caleb Rose, Bonsignor, the Walkers, Rogel Dorn, Bruno Diacomo. They're coming on in. And these drivers right here, hold on, Claire Phillips is going to elect to stay out. So Phillips stays out as Anderson, Munsell, and as well as Campbell Marsh. Nia Steitl's going to come on in. McClure and Abel, they all come in as well, as Claire Phillips stays out and will lead lap 34. As we had more dirt kicked up. Very, very interesting stuff happening here at the Sonoma Raceway with 16 laps to go here in the Toyota Savemart 350 for race 12 of the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series. Just in case if you miss anything that was going on throughout the last 34 laps of the event, we've been caution-free because obviously no cautions on road courses. But Russell Blaze, who started outside pole, hasn't been faring too well since the drop of the green flag. Got turned around on lap 1, turn 2, coming up the hill. He currently finds himself in the 36th position as of right now, with a lot of rear end damage to his race machine. More dirt kicked up. That's Wayne Lopez and Nia Steitel. Those two might have gotten together. Oh boy, oh boy. But since then, for the most part, we've been clean and green as Phillips makes the trip onto pit road. She's already in the pits right now. So the lead is going to cycle back around to Stephen Colon in the number 25. Now running in second, that would be Valkyrie Atikian. Phillips, more than likely, is not going to be shown in third. She's already making her way back out onto the racetrack. So DeFeo would be listed in the third position. Eric Monaco sitting in fourth. Ryan Gundillo rounds out the top 5. Then it's Sebastian Vaughn in 6th. Travis Crampton in 7th. Then running in 8th, that would be Ryan Little. Caleb Rose 9th. And Terry Walker rounds out the top 10. Coming to 14 laps of racing to go here in wine country, Sonoma Raceway. The gap between Atikian and Cologne has grown by about 2.3 seconds and maybe more, as Zachary Taylor has absolutely held up this number 23 of Atikian. Now Valkyrie is going to have a chance to get on by this 85 and try to chase him down. And who knows, we might have ourselves those game-changing pit stops with less than 5 laps to go. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on if the fuel is going to hold up for race leader Stephen Colon. Colon trying to join Nia Seidel as a 2-time winner this season. As so far, Seidel is the only 2-time winner in the 2025 campaign. And speaking of Seidel, she currently finds herself in the 32nd position as now Phillips makes another trip to pit road. She got some damage, possibly with the culprit, the 26 of Josiah Munsell. So both of those drivers might have had some contact when Phillips was making her way back out onto the racetrack with the 26 of Munsell. Coming around to complete lap 37 this time by. 13 laps of racing to go, and now that gap has shrunk down to 2.5 seconds between Colon and Atikian. DeFeo is 7 seconds back from the 23, who sits third right now, holding on what currently would be a top 5 finish as of right now. And Stapleton has also gone behind the wall, so I'm pretty sure he might have had a little accident. Josiah Munsell, you can see him He also goes to the garage. He is done for the day as well, and will be credited with a 38th place finish once the standings finalize. But this would be a very interesting day for Stephen Colon, because remember, he wound up getting that damage on the back end of his car from Noah Clifton when Colon recently had just come out of the pits. And remember, that pit exit, that line, right about here where Zachary Taylor was, that's within the racing line. So let me go ahead and just do this real quick. So right about here, that's where the racing line is at, along with the pit exit line, and those drivers that come out of the pits have to follow that line basically until it runs off into the dirt, basically. That's also the racing line as well. So if anybody comes out of the pits and the drivers are kind of running their normal line, they get into the back of one another, and they're going to wound up causing some more incidents, if you will, as Noah Clifton makes his way back out onto the racetrack. Or back into the pits, I should say. And looks like it's going to be a 4-tire stop for the 99 of Noah Clifton, who who opened up the day with pretty good results. And unfortunately, after that rear end damage that he gave to Stephen Colon, it definitely hurt his race car, and his day went from good to bad. Now it's gone from bad to worse, and kind of where his day's been since then. He's going to go one lap down. But going back to it, Colon, when Colon has still been able to really benefit from Noah Clifton's misfortune after his car got wounded after rear-ending the back of this 25, because Stephen Colon, I believe, has just been such a rocket ship since then, and has not looked back with this race lead. To apologize there, had a little bit of a phlegm buildup. This time by, 2 hands will be up in the air for Stephen Colon. That will signify 10 laps of racing to go here at the Sonoma Raceway for the Toyota Savemart 350. And I do want to bring up one more time that if Stephen Colon is able to hang on and win this race, that's definitely going to add a lot of salt to the wounds of Noah Clifton, because he had himself a really fast hot rod up until he rear-ended the 25 of Stephen Colon as Colon was exiting the pits, and as Clifton was also just running his racing line. That definitely hurt the 99 of Noah Clifton since then, and he has found himself faded away all the way back just outside of the top 30. He currently is the first car, 1 lap down, running in the 34th position, trying to hold off Michael DeFeo. And another thing to point out, for those that might have missed it, DeFeo also has similar damage to his number 60 car, but still is able to run up front, contend for spots, and has plenty of speed left over in his car, whereas Noah Clifton possibly might have damaged something within the front of the car, something of the sorts, because this race car has just not handled the same since rear-ending the 25 of Stephen Colon. Ryan Gundillo sitting in the 5th position, trying to hold off the challenges of Sebastian Vaughn. And this is such a great day for Sebastian Vaughn. He came into this race dead last in the points standings, 106 to his name. So definitely, as you can tell, barely broke into the triple digits. So right now, running inside of the top 10. This is an absolutely fantastic day for this Moonstar racing machine, or Moonlight racing machine. As we look further in the back end of the field, there's Travis Crampton, who managed to get himself a really good lap earlier today in qualifying to get himself into this race. He currently sits in the 7th spot. Caleb Rose having himself a really good day. Terry Walker, who's the points leader, a top 10, he's definitely going to benefit from this one. And Kyle Craven, you ask where he's at? Well, he's not too far behind, currently sitting just outside of the top 10 in the 11th position. Still a great run nonetheless, after hanging out inside of the top 5 all day for the 28 of Kyle Craven. A top 15 finish, I don't think that's going to hinder the confidence of this American Motorsports number 28 machine of Kyle Craven. If anything, that's just going to fuel it just a little bit more, and he might be one step closer to his first Pepsi Cup Series win, as will the number 48 of Terry Walker, as he's definitely going to be a pretty good contender when it comes to fighting for race wins, and he could have himself a very good shot when we go to Nashville later in July. Let's go ahead and check on in with Russell Blaze. Remember, he started outside pole here in this event, and unfortunately wound up getting wrecked out on lap 1, turn 2, after taking a pretty not a hefty spin, but a pretty small one at that. Backed it into the tire barrier. Hasn't been able to recover since then, but he has been able to regroup just a little bit. He currently is sitting in the 31st position, going to work here on Alexander Rowe to get inside of the top 30. Aaron Abel, you see him making his trip down into the pits. 7 to go. I think that car might be coasting. Nope, engine's still running on that number 43, so he is still good to go. So your race leader currently is the 25, Stephen Colon still. He's definitely going to nab those 5 bonus points for leading the most laps here today, because this 25 has been an absolute rocket ship. But this 23 of Valkyria Tikian might have something up her sleeve if the 25 of Cologne is not able to make it the rest of the way on gas. We are pretty much within that window where anything is kind of possible here with 6 laps to go. And look at that gap. It's now shrunk by another 0.2 as Tikian is starting to close in just bit by bit as we're closing in on 5 laps of racing to go here in Sonoma. They work their way through the S's. Aaron Abel just up ahead. Remember, he came out of the pits just a handful of moments ago. But time is, of course, running out. And that uncertainty is I would definitely have to say is looming in the back of the minds of a lot of these teams, because again, I've alluded to it a little bit ago, but you have to wonder which teams were able to pack their cars up with fuel so that way they're good to go the rest of the way, and which ones are going to be just short of making it to the finish. 5 to go, and that gap just shrunk by probably about 100th of a second, so not really much of a difference was made there. But Cologne continuing to hold on and try to maintain that gap that he's got on the 23 of WRLA Tikian as of right now. Still pretty impressive to me of how first and second have been able to gap third place Michael DeFeo. Because that's a 7-second difference between second and third place. Until you get back over here, well, obviously, with third and fourth pretty much right on top of each other, then you get another 3 seconds back between fourth and fifth. Gundillo still holding on to a top 5 run. Sebastian Vaughn looking to try to steal it away. 4 laps to go. And the gap is shrunk by another 100th of a second. So very, very small differences are being made every lap. But again, did these teams pack these cars all the way up with fuel to that way they're good to go for the finish? We've yet to find out here, because sometimes that pit window opens with about every 15 to 18 laps. So we'll see exactly what happens when these drivers come to 3 to go this time. Cologne could be on his way to his second career Pepsi Cup Series win and second of the season. Same goes for WRLA Tikian if she's able to make the fuel last. If Cologne's not able to. But they come to 3 to go this time. So far, no takers. Everybody's still doing pretty well as of right now on fuel, so looks like everybody might just be rolling the dice to see if they can make it the rest of the way on the tank of gas that they've got. And around goes Rogel Dorn. Got sent around by Bonsignor. That's going to slow down both of them, and they're going to lose a good handful of positions. That is definitely not something that Bonsignor would have wanted. Same goes for Rogel Dorn. I have a feeling they're going to be pretty upset with one another once this race is all said and done. Which is going to be just a short time from now, because they are coming to 2 laps of racing to go. The gap is shrunk to 1.9 seconds. Let's see what happens. So far, everybody's top 2 is still good to go. Anybody else not able to make it on fuel? So far, we've had no takers. Absolutely none whatsoever. So it looks like everybody might have packed these cars up on fuel, so they're probably good to go the rest of the way to see out the finish of this one. .8 seconds now between Cologne and Tikian. Pretty much the only thing that would wound up happening to Cologne, well, pretty much the only thing that Tikian can really hope for is Cologne runs out of gas and has to come to pit road when they take the white flag. I mean, that's a possibility, but we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Cologne stays out for this one, Tikian as well. Here they come through turn 11. The white flag is flying here at the Sonoma Raceway. 1 lap to go in the Toyota Savemart 350. And 1 lap away from Cologne's second win of the season, if he's able to hang on and make the fuel last. The gap is shrunk to 1.7 seconds between Cologne and Tikian. Clifton waiting in the wings, even though he is a lap car. He's still been all over the back bumper of this 23. Turn 6, heading into the S's for the final time for Stephen Colon. Stephen Colon wound up winning at Rockingham to take over the points lead for the opening stages of the season. Led the points for a couple of weeks, but kind of faded away just a little bit, but been looming in the background ever since then. But after getting rear-ended by Noah Clifton when he made his exit from the pits, he's been a rocket ship ever since. Off of turn 11 for the final time, heading back to the checkered flag. Second win on the season. Stephen Colon wins the Toyota Savemart 350. And it's a big gap up until you get to Michael DeFeo. He's going to finish third in this race. Eric Monaco will finish in fourth. Ryan Gundillo rounds out the top 5. Then it's Sebastian Vaughn in 6th. 7th is the 61 of Travis Crampton. Caleb Rose in 8th. Ryan Little 9th. And Terry Walker will round out your top 10. And tons of damage to the front end of Kyle Craven's car. And I mean tons of damage. Still manages to finish in the 18th position, but he can't even see anything. So we're going to have to look and see what happened to Kyle Craven there towards the end of this one. But Stephen Colon comes home with the race win, his second on the season. This is also going to help him when it comes to the championship fight. And he's just gotten ever so closer to maybe retaking the points lead or just getting inside of the top 5. But how about that, though, for Stephen Colon and this Colon Motorsports team? From positions 11th on down, everybody finished on the lead lap from 11th on down to 28th. That is the drivers that finished on the lead lap so far until you get on down over here to 33rd. Wayne Lopez was the last car that finished on the lead lap. 3 cars finished 1 lap down. That would be Noah Clifton, Claire Phillips, and Aaron Abel. Zachary Taylor, Josiah Munsell, Nathan Stapleton, Braden Perez, Moscow, and Andrew Ramsey were the retirees here in this race. Let's go ahead and review all the incidents that we can possibly find here that happened throughout the race, and we'll go ahead and show off what happened to Russell Blaze at the very beginning of the event, just to give you guys an idea of what happened to him that started off this whole thing. We're just gonna go ahead and slow this on down for you guys. This is on lap 1. And it looks like right about here, yeah, Valkyrie Atikin makes contact with Blaze and sends him around in front of the field and sends him into the tire barriers right here. Blaze was able to quickly recover and try to find his way back out onto the racetrack, but driving through this dirt of 100% is not that easy to do. And then just shortly after that, we go further up ahead to Abby Walker, because she was also the next car that wound up losing control here. Might have had some contact, or yes, indeed, a little bit of help from the 18 or the 34 of Alexander Rowe that sent her around just a little bit. Probably about 45 degrees at that. Just a slight little tap against that retaining barrier, the left side retaining barrier, but Walker was able to continue on nonetheless. Now, let's go back and let's fast forward a little bit and review what happened to Andrew Ramsey and Val Moscow that wound up seeing those drivers as the first retirees of the event. Oh, that's what wound up happening. That's what wound up happening. So, this is Andrew Ramsey. Looks like he's trying to get around the 33 and the 21 down the front straightaway. They head into turn 1, and Ramsey just gets squeezed by Val Moscow, and those two cars are magnetized to one another, and they go right into this turn 1 barrier, and that 2 hard licks. So hard, in fact, for the 33 of Moscow, he basically gets stuck into that wall. But both of those cars heavily damaged and heavily smashed up. Neither driver was able to continue on, obviously, and their days ended pretty early. Well, with about 20 laps to go. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what happened to Braden Perez that saw him as the next retiree. I believe that might have been, actually, that was when he was a good handful of laps down. Possibly. Oh, here it is. Oh, this is also what took Stapleton out of the race as well. So Braden Perez and Nathan Stapleton, they both, well, especially Perez, because remember, he was on fresher tires. He tries to go to the outside of Nathan Stapleton, and I'm not sure, but I think Perez gets into the left rear because Stapleton ended up braking a little bit earlier than Perez, and whammo. For the second time this season, Nathan Stapleton finds the end of the pit wall. Remember, the last time that wound up happening was back at North Wilkesboro in May. And unfortunately, this knocked both Perez and Stapleton out of the race at the same time. Rather unfortunate there, but now let's go ahead and review what happened to Josiah Munsell and as well as Zachary Taylor before we go ahead and sign off. So see, oh, that's what wound up happening. So, you remember what I was talking about a little bit ago? About basically a lot of the incidents that wound up happening with drivers exiting the pits and the racing line being exactly where it is going into turn 1. That's exactly what happened right here. Phillips was trying to get back out onto the racetrack, and Munsell was just focused on his racing line. And they go all the way up, almost right into those campers. Phillips makes contact right about here with the pit wall, or not the pit wall, but that tire barrier. Actually, not even close to that when we look at it from this angle. But thankfully, these drivers were able to continue all the way back around and bring their cars into the pits. Unfortunately, Munsell was not able to see the checkered flag of this race. Phillips was able to go on to finish the event. But now, our final retiree, that being Zachary Taylor, let's go back and review what happened to him. I think this was with 2 laps to go. Well, yeah, this was on the final lap, actually. So this is our final incident of the race. So this pretty much happened on the final lap. Ooh, Ooh, and that's what wound up happening. So kind of a similar scenario than what Nathan Stapleton had, but just different, however. You see Taylor, he's just minding his own P's and Q's, and I think he did something similar where he breaks a little bit earlier than Kyle Craven. Craven gets into the left rear and just makes contact with the end of the pit wall, and unfortunately, Craven just had nowhere to go. He was able to go on and finish 18th in the race, Craven was, but that's how Kyle Craven wound up with the damage that he had on his car. Taylor, unfortunately, was not able to see the checkered flag on the final lap of this race, and Craven will be credited with an 18th place finish. But what a race. What a race here at the Sonoma Raceway. Congratulations to Stephen Colon on nabbing his second win on the season. And that pretty much is going to do it for WRLA Pepsi Cup Series action from here at the Sonoma Raceway. When we return, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back at it at the Nashville Super Speedway. If I can pull out the schedule, that is going to be on July 26th. At 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be a pretty good event, and hopefully you guys are able to tune in to the Ally 400 at the Nashville Super Speedway. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this live on Twitch, be sure to hit that follow button so that you don't miss a future stream over here on the Twitch side. If you're watching the full race premiere on YouTube, if you guys like this, be sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't considered subscribing yet, recommend you do so in order to keep up with some fine content coming out in the near future. Be sure to keep an eye out on the Discord for the points when this premiere concludes. So, with that said, ladies and gents, on behalf... Well, pretty much one more time, congratulations to Stephen Colon on winning here at the Sonoma Raceway. And I'm Elijah Leonard going ahead and signing out. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you guys at the end of July at the Nashville Super Speedway. Have a good one, y'all.